Hey guys, tonight we're taking a slow, sleepy stroll down the banks of the Nile, that long, glimmering ribbon of life that kept ancient Egypt humming for thousands of years. The air is warm, thick with the smell of wet earth and sweet river plants, and somewhere nearby, an ibis bird lets out a lazy squawk, like it's also not quite ready to start the day. You squint at the horizon, where sunlight slips over the water like melted gold. It's here, among the mud and reeds, that humans accidentally stumbled on something that would outlive empires, outlast languages, and eventually fill your office desk drawers. You probably won't survive this one, but don't worry, that's part of the charm. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Nile isn't just a river, it's an assembly line for civilization, and right now you're standing on the soft, damp edge of its most peculiar invention, papyrus. The reeds rise taller than your shoulders, their tips flaring into green firework bursts that sway gently in the morning wind. You reach out. The stems feel both waxy and fibrous, almost alive, whispering against your fingers. It's hard to believe that these plants will become something future humans will curse over, from lost homework to tax forms. You trudge deeper into the marsh. The mud makes that satisfying slop sound as it tries to claim your sandals forever. Ancient workers are already at it, cutting reeds in careful strokes, bundling them like future scrolls of wisdom and bad handwriting. They hum low songs to the rhythm of their blades. These are Egypt's earliest office supplies manufacturers, though they probably think they're just farmers with too much time on their hands. One man pauses, wiping sweat from his brow with a strip of reed bark. His hands are calloused, but his movements are meticulous. You can tell, this isn't random harvest, it's ritual precision. Historians still argue whether Egyptians first discovered papyrus as a construction material, a writing medium, or something ceremonial, but you can feel that quiet reverence in the air. Every stalk they cut seems to carry a secret, a whisper of permanence in a world built on sand. A boy nearby tosses a papyrus stalk into the river, watching it drift downstream. Maybe he's thinking it'll reach Memphis, or maybe he's just bored. Either way, that floating plant is on its way to become someone's letter to the gods, or an invoice for grain, or maybe a love confession from a shy temple scribe. As you follow the reed bundles back to the village, the smell changes, from mud to smoke to something faintly sweet like boiled grass. Women sit beside clay vats, soaking strips in water. They gossip about the priests, about fish prices, about crocodiles stealing laundry. One laughs, a warm human sound that echoes through time. It's funny to think that while they work, they're crafting something that will one day hold the words of kings. In the background, a few ibis birds strut along the riverbank, looking smug. The Egyptians consider them sacred, associated with Thoth, the god of writing and knowledge. Maybe that's fitting. You imagine Thoth watching from somewhere invisible, amused that humanity's first paperwork is being invented not by scholars in libraries, but by barefoot villagers knee-deep in muck. A crocodile slides lazily into the water, another reminder that Egypt's miracles always come with teeth. You step back instinctively. There's something eerie about how these people coexist with danger so calmly. You get the sense they see the Nile not as a threat, but as a deal they've made with nature. Feed us, and we'll risk your monsters. The sun climbs higher, turning the mud glossy and gold. The reed piles glisten, ready to be ferried off to workshops upriver. In your mind, you can already see what's coming, those long tables where papyrus will be sliced, layered, pressed. But for now, you just breathe in the humid quiet. This is where civilization starts, not with temples or pyramids, but with muddy hands turning plants into memory. Somewhere a scribe to be is probably dreaming of tools to make his life easier, the ancient equivalent of a low ink warning. You almost want to whisper to him, "Don't worry, your invention will survive longer than your empire." The day winds on, cicadas droning like overworked clerks, And you realize that history's first paper trail began not in marble halls, but here, under a sweltering Egypt sun, with nothing more than patience, plants, and curiosity. You follow the reed bundles upriver, drifting into a quiet workshop that smells of wet fiber and river clay. Inside, it's cooler, darker, the kind of shade that feels earned after a long morning in the sun. You watch as the papyrus stalks, freshly cut and trimmed, are laid out like sleeping snakes on a smooth slab of limestone. A man with arms strong enough to wrestle a hippo grabs a knife and slices each stalk lengthwise, peeling away thin ribbon-like strips. This is where the magic begins. The first strips go down horizontally, the next layer vertically, a woven mat of pale green lines that shimmer with moisture. Them, with the slow pressure of a stone mallet and a patient rhythm that would put any modern factory to shame, the layers are pressed, smoothed, and coaxed into a single solid sheet. It's a process that somehow feels both scientific and ritualistic, like watching nature being persuaded to cooperate with human will. As you lean closer, you can see the faint juice seeping from the strips, sticky like honey. That's the secret glue. The plant's own sap acting as an adhesive, binding the layers together without need for paste or resin. No one writes this part down, but you can imagine the first time it happened. Someone accidentally left a pile of soaked reeds under a rock, came back a day later, and discovered a miracle. Historians still argue whether papyrus was first made deliberately or stumbled upon by accident. Maybe a lucky mishap during boat repair or mat weaving. Whatever the truth, you can feel that it wasn't just invention, it was evolution. Humanity was learning to talk to nature in a new way, to turn living plants into permanent thoughts. You trace a finger along one of the drying sheets. It's smooth but slightly fibrous, like the skin of a fruit. Sunlight leaks in through the reed roof, glinting off the wet surface. You realize that somewhere, between the swamps and this table, Egypt invented the idea of recording. Not carving into stone for the gods, but writing on something light, flexible, and intimate. Something you could fold, hide, or pass along. A message, portable and personal. A man sneezes nearby. The papyrus dust tickles the air. He laughs, muttering something about Thoth's revenge, and everyone chuckles. It's a small moment, but you can almost feel how human it is. Jokes, banter, daily monotony. Even in ancient Egypt, workdays had coffee break energy, just minus the coffee. You glance at the drying racks outside. Sheets of papyrus flap softly in the breeze like ancient laundry, each one a blank possibility. Some will end up as shopping lists for temple kitchens. Others will hold the final prayers of kings. A few might even become art, painted with deities, boats, or the eternal march of the sun across the sky. And yet, for all their genius, the Egyptians never quite standardized the process. One batch might come out perfect, pale, flexible, and smooth, while the next is streaked, brittle, or warped by humidity. Historians still argue over how much of papyrus production was centralized versus done at local levels. Some scrolls even bear traces of reused material, suggesting that ancient Egypt may have pioneered recycling long before modern office bins. You catch a glimpse of a young apprentice outside, holding a papyrus sheet up to the light. He squints at it the way someone today might judge a printout, frowning at faint lines, rubbing a flaw. Then he shrugs and hangs it anyway. You can tell this craft isn't about perfection. It's about rhythm, a cycle as natural as the Nile's flood. Grow, harvest, press, dry, repeat. Somewhere in the distance, drums echo faintly. Maybe a festival. Maybe just workers marking the end of another day. The sound merges with the slap of wet papyrus on stone, a kind of accidental music. You think about how these same rhythmic sounds must have echoed for centuries, generation after generation, hands pressing fibers into pages, unaware that their simple craft would outlive their entire civilization. The smell of drying reeds fills the air, earthy and sweet. You realize that this workshop, with its puddled floor and quiet laborers, is the birthplace of the concept of paperwork. The first memos, ledgers, love notes, and government decrees, all begin here, in the steady patience of papyrus makers. Someone outside laughs again, tossing a strip of failed papyrus into the river. You watch it float away, curling gently as it drifts downstream, like it's already carrying a secret message for the future. You smile. Maybe in 1,000 years someone will dig one up, squint at the faint fibers, and whisper, "This is where it all began."